So just look at me for the cue. Shabbat Shalom and welcome to our Kabbalat Shabbat service, our first service of the month. Joining me in the sanctuary are our wonderful song leaders, Reese Ratliff and Dylan Steinberg. Of course, Rabbi is here behind the scenes at the moment. And we are so excited to sing with you, to raise our voices, to welcome Shabbat and to bring joy and hope into this sanctuary and your sanctuaries at home. We continue with this nigun, and we ask that you raise your voices with us wherever you are. Yaribon olam ve'amaya unto Malka ve'amaya Yaribon olam ve'amaya unto Malka ve'amaya Ya Ribon Olam ve'amaya, Antu Malka Melech Machaya, Ovad Gutech V'tim Ha'aya, Shifa Kadma L'Havaya, Ya Ribon Olam ve'amaya, Antu Malka ve'amaya. And from one Kabbalat text of the Kabbalists into another, Lecha Dodi.
La la la
Ojava Shalom Aleinu, Ojava Shalom Aleinu, Ve'alekula Salam, Aleinu ve'al ha'olam, Salam, 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 Aleinu ve'al ha'olam, Salam, Salam. Ojava Shalom Aleinu, Ojava Shalom Aleinu, Ojava Shalom Aleinu, ve'al kulam. Ojava Shalom Aleinu, Ojava Shalom Aleinu, Ojava Shalom Aleinu, ve'al kulam. And with 3 minutes to go before our service begins, 2 prayers for peace. Lo yasa goy, and Dosei Shalom.
Tov, good evening. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat is the place, as Alden Solovey would say, where we can leave the stress and anxiety of the week behind and immerse ourselves in the holiness that we find in time, in the palace in time, as Abraham Joshua Heschel would say. Shabbat is the place we find ourselves now, letting go of all that has been, embracing this moment, this sacred moment, all of us together. If you're just joining us, we are celebrating Kabbalat Shabbat, so we have our song leaders with us, Dylan Steinberg and Reese Ratliff, and we transition now to the rest of our service as we prepare to bless our Shabbat candles. If you've waited to bless your Shabbat candles, you can go ahead and light them now and join with us. The cantor is going to lead us. If you need the words, if you turn to our website or to our YouTube channel, you'll find a link to the flip book for Mishkan Tefillah for Shabbat, or maybe you already have a copy of it squirreled away somewhere. The blessing is found on page 2.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehalik ner shel Shabbat.
Have you welcomed Shabbat into our lives with singing, with light? We turn to page 28 and we rise physically, spiritually as we join in the Baruch Hu. Praise the God who creates all things, light and darkness, all things in our universe created for us to perfect, for us to work toward. And we praise the God who loves us and who teaches us to love each other, to love all of God's creations. Ahavat Olam is on page 32. remain standing for Shema. Can be seated. I was showing my son earlier today the scenes out of Philadelphia, not just from today, but from earlier in the week, the people dancing in the streets, dancing in line to vote, doing the electric slide, a klezmer band in front of the convention center who apparently got Gritty to be their drummer. And my son said, "What kind of protest is that?" And I said to him, "Joy is a protest too." John Lewis knew that, and we watched him dance. And our people knew that as they stood at the shores of the sea and watched the waters close and danced. So let's lift up our voices, and I invite you to dance where you are as we join in Mi Chamocha on page 40.
Ba'emi Madonai, Mikonocha Nidorba.
We can find Vishamru on page 44. Page 44. Physically, spiritually, we rise for the Amidah, Adonai Sfatai on 46, Avot V'Imahot on 48.
Adonai Sfatai Tifta Hofia Gidehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, ve'Elohei avoteinu v'imoteinu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, ve'Elohei Leah. Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanora El Elyon Gomel Chasadim Tovim V'konei HaKol V'zocher Chastei Avot V'imahot Umevi Geula Livnei V'neihem Lema'an Shemahu B'Yahava Melech Ozer U'Moshiach U'Magen Baruch atah Adonai Magen Avraham Ve'ezrat Sarah Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai Mechayecha Kol Atah Rav Lehoshia Mashiv HaRuach U'Morid HaGashem Mechalkel Chaim Bechesed Mechaye HaKol Berachamim Rabim Somech Noflim Verofei Cholim Umatir Asurim Umekayim Emunato Lishenei Afar Michamocha Ba'al Kevurot Umidah Melach Melech Mimit Umechayeh U'Matz Miach Yeshua V'ne'eman Atal HaChayot HaKol Baruch atah Adonai Mechayeh HaKol Atah Kadosh V'Shimcha Kadosh U'Kdoshim B'chol Yom Yehallelucha Selah Baruch atah Adonai Ha'el HaKadosh.
We can be seated, and let's turn to page 253 in our prayer books as we think of all those in this world, all those we know in our lives who are in need of healing. We think of so many who are suffering from this pandemic, from the pandemic of injustice. So many of our own friends and family who need a healing of body, a healing of spirit. If you have a name to lift up, I invite you to share that name, whether you're watching on YouTube or on Facebook, or lift that name up in your own voice, wherever you are. And for all those we say out loud, all those we say in our hearts, together, we pray for healing.
The renewal
We transition now to our Seder Kriyat HaTorah, our service for the reading of Torah, and physically or spiritually, I invite you to rise. We can be seated. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. Amen. So Abraham sits in the heat of the day at the entrance of his tent by the oak of Moreh. And God is there too, apparently speaking with Abraham when he sees three strangers. And my favorite understanding of this text is that Abraham takes leave of God to go approach these three strangers. He doesn't know they're angels. We don't know yet that they're angels. But he goes to them in the heat of the day in order to take care of their needs. Abraham is in a vulnerable place, even with God there. And he leaves God's side to go take care of others. What better way to honor God than to care for those created in God's image? What better way to leave one's own vulnerability behind than to care for others in their vulnerability? So we're reading from the beginning of Parashat Vayera, Genesis chapter 18, beginning with verse 1, and that's our text. We've already done the bracha. Vayera elav Adonai be'elonei Mamre, v'hu yoshev petach ha'ohel kachom hayom. And and God revealed God's self to Abraham at the oak of Moreh while Abraham was sitting at the entrance of his tent at the heat of the day. V'yisainav vayar v'hine shalosha anashim nitzavim alav. And Abraham looked up, and look, there were three men standing nearby. Vayarot likratam mi petach ha'ohel v'yishtachu arza. Abraham looked and ran to greet them from the entrance of his tent and bowed low to the ground. Vayomar Adonai, im na matzati chen be'einecha, al na ta'avor me'al avdecha. And he said to them, my lords, gentlemen, signors, if I have found favor in your sight, don't go past your servant. Abraham's talking about himself. Yukachna me'at mayim v'rachatzu raglechem. Let me get a little bit of water and wash your feet. V'hisha'anu tachat ha'etz. And you can sit under this tree. Ve'ekcha pat lechem. And let me get you a little bit of bread. V'sa'adu livavchem achar ta'avoru. Ki al kain avartem al avdechem. And then after you have rested yourself, you've settled your heart, after that you can continue on, having now come before your servant. Vayomhu, ken, ta'aseh ka'asher dibarta. And they said, sure, do what you have said. We rise now for Hagbah and Glila, the lifting up and dressing of our Sefer Torah, and we'll remain standing as we put our Torah away. You good?
Mm-hmm. V'zot ha'Torah asher sam Moshe v'bnei bnei Yisrael al pi Adonai v'yad Moshe yarai rai 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 rai
We may be seated, and before we let the moment pass, we celebrate the birthdays of everybody who celebrates a birthday in November and everybody who celebrated a birthday in October. We were a little rushed last month. If you celebrate a birthday last month or this month, post something in the chat on whatever video you're watching as we celebrate you and join together in singing Shechianu.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehechianu v'kimanu v'higianu lazman hazeh.
Happy birthday to all of you. Ad mea ve'esrim, may you live to be 120. Ad mea ke'esrim, may you live to be 100, but with the energy of a 20-year-old. So a quick story for this evening, as it wouldn't be Kabbalat Shabbat without a story. And this is a story that some of you know. It is a story about a girl named Molly. And Molly, one November morning, rushed home from school, very excited to talk to her mother, and especially to talk to her bubby, to talk to her grandmother, because she had a special request. She ran into the door of her house breathless and ran right up to her bubby who lived with them and said, "Bubby, I have a special request." And her grandmother looked at her and said, "Molly, I'm happy to do whatever you want, but you are breathless. Sit down. What happened at school today? Why are you so excited? Molly took off her backpack. She hadn't even taken it off yet, rustled through it and pulled out a picture and held it in front of her grandmother and said, I want you to make me a doll of a pilgrim. We learned about Thanksgiving today, and I want a doll of a pilgrim. And she held up this picture, and it was a picture of a pilgrim lady, as you probably had in your books in school, with yellow hair and a white apron and a dark dress and a white head covering. Molly's grandmother studied the picture and said, I'll take care of it, and I'll have it for you the morning before Thanksgiving, the Wednesday morning before Thanksgiving. Well, the days and the weeks went by. Molly continued, even though she was told when it was going to be, to pester her bubby. When is it going to be ready? Can I see it? What does it look like? What are you using? Molly's grandmother would say, you'll see, you'll see. The morning finally came. Molly rushed out of bed, put on her clothes, ran downstairs to the breakfast table, and there, sitting in her place, was a doll. The hair was dark brown yarn, and she had embroidered eyes and a nose and a mouth, and a bright yellow flowery kerchief covering that dark brown hair, and a dress with red flowers on it. Molly stared at the doll for a very long time before realizing her bubby was also in the kitchen. So, Schönkeit, so pretty one, what do you think? Well, she's gorgeous, Bubby, Molly managed to murmur, but she doesn't look like the pilgrim in the picture. No, said Bubby. Well, no, she looks like the photograph we have that was taken of you when you were a little girl. Of course, said Bubby. I did that on purpose. Because what's a pilgrim? A pilgrim is someone who came here from somewhere else to find freedom. And that's me, Molly. I'm a pilgrim. We're all pilgrims. We're all on an endless pilgrimage from there to get to where we can find, at last, freedom and justice. The pilgrims weren't the people who got to Plymouth Rock, or the people who came to Ellis Island, or the people now waiting on our borders. They're everyone. They're all of us journeying together to get to that place of freedom. And the journey never ends, because it's not just about us getting to that place of freedom. It's about us reaching out our hands to make sure that others can cross as well. Because at the end of the day, we're all pilgrims, all of us marching to that place of freedom, hand in hand, together. May it be so, as we say, Amen. Aleinu is on page 282. Page 282, let's all rise.
Aleinu l'shabeach la'adon ha'kol, la'teit gedula li'yotzer breshit, shelo asanu kegoye ha'aratzot, v'lo zamanu kemishpachot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkenu kahem, v'gor aleinu kechol hamonam, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
We may be seated and we'll turn to page 294. However brief may be our time on earth, O God, you endow our fleeting days with abiding worth. If you are in the first 30 days of your mourning, wherever you are, I invite you to rise at this time. And if you're in the first year of your mourning, I invite you to rise. If on this Shabbat you observe a yahrzeit, the anniversary of a loved one's passing, I invite you to rise. And if it is your custom to rise for those whom only we can remember, those who have died from this pandemic, from the pandemic of injustice, the martyrs of our people, those of every race and nation who died sanctifying the divine name, I invite you to rise as we join together in Mourner's Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitkadash Shemei Rabbah Bi'alma divrach hirute v'yamlich malchute b'chayechon u'vyomechon u'v'chayedecho Beit Yisrael ba'agala u'vizman kariv v'imru amen. Yehi Shemei Rabbah mevarach le'olam u'lalmei almaya Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh v'yit hadar v'yit aleh v'yit halal Shemei d'Kudisha barichu Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran bi'alma v'imru amen. Yehi shalama rabba min shamaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. We think of our loved ones whom death has recently taken from us, those who died at this season in years past, and those whom we have drawn into our hearts with our own. We remember Phyllis Nemroff, Pauline Chambers, Philip Decter, Florence Mitzi Decter, Edward Eisenhandler, Faye Feldman, Hildred Harris Finkel, Jack Goldstein, Mary Goldstein, Mildred Himber, Max Kyle, Cecilia Lukoff, J.D. Paul, Ethel Radner, Marjorie J. Seltzer, James Strauss, Rachel Topkis, and Betty Weinberg. And if you have a name to add, I'll invite you to do so again on either of the chats or lift that name up. As we say for all of them, Zichronam Livracha, may their memories be a blessing. Amen. And we can be seated. Torah study tomorrow at 9:30 via Zoom, led by our cantor, which is very exciting. Get to explore Parshat Vayera some more. There's a lot going on there, so it should be a lot of fun to unpack that. For those who are attending confirmation on Sunday, and for those in the religious school, there's a special program Sunday afternoon, a challah baking program with one of my former students, student Rabbi Vanessa Harper, known on Instagram as Lech Lachala. It should be an amazing program, so I'd encourage you to participate in that. Lots else going on, including our Scholar in Residence weekend, which is next weekend with Mary Zamor, Rabbi Mary Zamor, author of many books, expert on Jewish ethics. It should be an amazing, amazing program. And in this moment of anxiety and transition and hope that we're not sure we have permission to have, hope that we're not sure we're allowed to engage in, we lift our voices up. We lift our voices up in song. We lift our voices up in prayer. We give voice to that hope. We give voice to this moment as we join with our amazing song leaders and our cantor in singing One Day. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.